When learning how to draw, I first like to start students off with learning their basic shapes. And yes, I understand this is going back to your elementary schooling, but it's important that we're on the same page about this. And when I talk about these shapes are from geometry. And there is kind of a mathematical equation that goes with each one. So they are the shapes that you think of from your childhood. So I'm starting off there with an oval, and these shapes should each measure about 2.5 inches in height or width, maybe 2 inches for the smaller sides. You can use a ruler for shapes that have a straight edge, and I do want you to include all of them. So I'm getting in an oval, you're putting in a square, we're going to do an octagon in a minute. And so why is this important? Well, if you think about it, we're surrounded by geometric shapes. Geometric shapes are pretty much found mostly in man-made things, but you can also find them in nature too, or a variant of them. So when you think about looking out of a window or the side of a house, you think rectangular, like rectangular or a square. So when you do draw a circle, you see me first of all doing these little, what I call tick marks, to get the height and width of a circle. Almost like you would for a square, the height and width are the same, and then you just curve the connecting lines. It doesn't have to be perfect. And you see I'm doing this with pencil. That's because we're going to be watercoloring this in, and the pencil looks attractive versus doing it with pen. This triangle, I'm taking the bottom, the base, as a horizontal line, and I'm drawing a line straight up, almost like an upside down T, to get it to be perfect. However, you could freehand it. So I'm going to jump ahead here so you can see what the finished page looks like. And you're doing this on a big watercolor sheet. Give yourself plenty of room, and we are going to be labeling all of these. So it's important that you have a spot to label them, because there are really 3 different groupings. The first one, of course, is our geometric group, and you can see that you should have 9. Now I'm going to go in and give them a coat of watercolor. I'm going to give each one kind of its own color to make it stand apart. It would be good to practice your watercolor mixing skills so that you're mixing these colors and not necessarily using them straight from the palette. This should be easy and should be relatively quick to do. Try and stay within the lines to the best of your ability. I would like you to take a moment to label each shape with its correct name. So on mine you can see there's the oval, the square, the octagon, the circle, the triangle, the trapeze or trapezoid, the heart, the pentagon, and the diamond shape. Make sure to also label this grouping as geometric shapes so you can distinguish them. Now let's go to freeform shapes, which are some of my favorite shapes. These are shapes that tend to be found out in nature. So the geometric shapes tend to be man-made, but the freeform, also known as organic shapes, are the ones you'd see outdoors if you were to go on a hike. So the leaves we were doing the other day, your flowers, those are all free form. Free form means there's some imperfections to them. It's kind of going irregular or even asymmetrical. So it's not perfectly symmetrically balanced. What you see on one side doesn't necessarily happen on the other side. This is true of most tree silhouettes. This is true of leaves, of shells. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm finding some things out in nature. You're a free-form shape too, your body is. If you go pick a topic like the ocean, there's a ton of free-form shapes there. So most plants, animals, insects all qualify. So for this one, I did provide a sheet of free-form shapes. However, I will also grant you the choice of 3 of them can be images that you find that you'd like to use. You can use your phone for this, but please make sure it's only for this research. So anyway, I looked up a betta fish because I think they're pretty, and we have one at our house, but it's a perfect example of an irregular shape. Again, I'd like you to choose at least 3 from that handout I'm providing you of freeform shapes, but you can also look up 3 of your own. when it comes to watercoloring these, I'd like you to go for a little bit more color and values. So I went for about 3 values, 3 colors on mine. You can see that's happening here. It was just more exciting to do that. It doesn't have to look three-dimensional, not yet. That'll be for our next lesson. But I do want you to label these as freeform shapes.